A speech about the 2000s, or also known the 90s. Nick, in all his emails, specified that we should try to stay under 5 minutes. Yeah. And there's one rule that I've learned being an Exiles, is that what happens on tour stays on tour. And when I heard your speech, Nick, it really feels that there is a 30-year prescription. So if you want to know what happened in Amsterdam in 2002, what happened in Tallinn in 2008, and so on, please keep coming to those events, because we will be able to release a lot of information. So it's difficult to go after all those amazing speakers, but if I can make one comment about Paul Mallon's speech, is that I think the 90s were absolutely mental. And I know that because I started playing for the club at the beginning of the 2000s, and some of the players from the 90s carried over the next decade, and that was something really special. Some of them haven't been able to come here today, but I just want to name a few of them. Jonathan O'Neill, Nigel Pettigrew, Callum McGregor, and Matt Pryor. And I think those four were really from another class. I was a student at DTU, so I know this room pretty well. I went to many very bad parties with like 90% men and women walking in like hoodies and sneakers. And basically I remember my parents calling me on the Sunday and be like, so how was your weekend? And it was like, well, yeah, we played rugby, we had a few beers and went home early. And then I was thinking about what just happened the night before. It was pretty amazing. So during the 2000s, we've replaced all those guys who started to leave the club with PhD students. And I know that sounds extremely bizarre, but yes, we did. But in case you want to know more about the 90s, there's a pub in town called Charlie Scott. You go there. You go to the bartenders and you ask him to tell you about the 90s. So he has witnessed some of it, he has taken part in some of it, but he will tell you all the stories. And believe me, this is really, really interesting. But if I should speak about the 90s, then I think it's been one of the most productive era of Exiles, and it's been very productive in more ways that you can think. We started the 90s with 2 full squads for the men, a first team, a second team. So you were playing for the first team or the second team. There was a captain, a vice captain for each team. And we also had a ladies team that Jennifer started. But maybe I should start to tell you about the least productive thing we've done in the 90s. And it's when our entire ladies team left to Frederiksberg. So it's not like a couple of girls were pissed off with how the club was run and just left to another club. The entire ladies team left and went to another club who were kind of our rivals at the time. I mean, they were beating us pretty consistently, so it was pretty painful. And they sent us an email saying, basically, it's been fun to be with you guys, but it's also time to move on and be with real men. So they didn't really say it this way, but it was so painful that we were like, come on, this is so wrong. So our dear DRU president, who was a Frederiksberg player at the time, so he was playing for the Frederiksberg team, when all our women left to Frederiksberg, what I'd like to say is Val, Brendan, and all those guys sitting at this table, please keep an eye on your wives just in case. So the 2000s, I think the thing we've achieved really well was to go through the cup. The championship and the league were a bit more difficult for us, but we did make it to 3 cup finals in 2003, 2004, 2005, but we lost all 3 of them. I remember in 2002 we had a quarter final against Frederiksberg. It was in August and all of us were coming back from holidays, and there were emails being thrown around about who's available, who's not available, and it was really looking like we were about to get a good ass kicking, because there wasn't really anyone who was really interested. And I remember a lot of the old guys from the 90s, 80s and 70s started emailing us and telling us like, come on guys, you can't let that one simply go away. You need to pull yourself together and get a team. Come on, remember who wore this jersey before you. So I know you guys mentioned that you had flip charts and clipboards and so on. By the time you had emails, and you also had computers, so you could actually email us to tell us what was going on. And so basically, we managed to organize 2 trainings, and we managed to get a team together, and we get all the aggression. There was all sorts of emails about what we're gonna do to Fredericksburg and what our calls in the lineouts will be, so everyone is prepared. We played the game, we lost. It was a very close game, as you can imagine. And then on the Monday, there's a guy called Matt. So he was playing for Fredericksburg, but he came to 2 trainings with the Exiles in the first place, but then he realized he was living in Fredericksburg, so he moved to Fredericksburg, and he emailed everyone and he said, could you please take me out of the mailing list? So basically, he got all the information, the line-out calls, the whole strategy, everything. So we were sending everything to that guy who was playing for the opposite team. Yeah, maybe we should have stick to flip chart indeed. So we played 3 cup finals. We lost all 3 of them between 2003, 4, and 5. 4 and 5 we played again against Fredericksburg. In 2005 we lost only by 2 points. We were ahead in the last minutes of the game. We threw away the game. I still don't know how. But it was really painful because basically our ladies who were used to play with us were on the other side and were cheering for the other guys. So not only we lost in the last minute, but all those girls were cheering for the opposition. So it was really painful. But also we played the whole game in losing every single line out and every single scrum. But we still managed to compete, which I think in itself was a performance. Okay. So after that we had 2 quite difficult years, and I know Paul also mentioned some difficulties in the 90s. But I think it's part of how the club is run. We are very much relying on foreigners coming in, joining, and maybe leaving afterwards. Sometimes we get great players, but they only stay for a couple of years. So it's part, I think, of the nature of the club that some of the years are not going to be as good. And I know it's difficult to believe that because right now the club is doing amazing. I mean, today, guys, you played, I mean, okay, the quality of the opposition wasn't what it should be, but you were really well organized. You played really well. There's a ladies team who's doing amazing. I mean, we can see the club is run amazingly well. But some years are not going to be as great as this year, again, because of the nature of the club. So we had 2 years that were pretty low, 2006, 2007. But during those 2 years, we had the best exposure in medias and other places, which was a bit weird. So in 2006, we went on tour in Hanover. And because we won the cup in the last 3 years in Denmark, the guys in Hanover thought that we were some sort of like semi-professionals. And basically they advertised the game everywhere in town, and people even had to pay to watch the game. And so it wasn't a cup final team, it was a very mixed side of like old, young players, retired players. We didn't even have 15 players to fill a squad, and I think we lost like 70-0. But some people actually paid to see that, which I think is pretty amazing. In that game, our coach Matt King broke his leg and had to step down after that as a coach. And I think Matt has been coaching the team for about 15 years, and that's pretty amazing. I mean, I've been involved with the club as a team captain, as an assistant coach, doing different things, maybe over the span of 5 years. Some of you have done it a bit longer, but doing it for 15 years is really a commitment. And again, when you have those years that are pretty bad, you need the passion, you need the commitment of those guys to keep the club together. And we will need this passion again when we're going to have one of those years. And I'd like to... I really like to say a big cheers to Matt King. He's not here tonight because he's actually with his brother who's at the hospital. But I would like to echo Paul's tribute to Matt King. Without Matt King, I really don't know if we will have this anniversary today. Wow. So, well done Matt King, and I hope we will have more Matt King in the club. And that was pretty amazing. So, after that, we had the last of the 2000s were pretty good. In 2008, we had the arrival of a few really good players. They are actually in the room. Dr. Lou Pilbeam and Dr. Stuart Tyndall. They were PhD students at the time. And they joined the club, but they were really from another level. And they really, I think, brought the club to the next level, the level where we should be. But it was really great to have them at this time because the club wasn't doing so well. I wanted to mention something also about 2007 that was quite funny. In 2007, we lost every single league game. Every single league game. We were competing not to go down in the second division with a team in Holstebro. And basically, we had to beat Holstebro away to stay in the first division. And those guys invited TV2 Jutland to actually film the game. And so we went there with our best squad and so on. And it was a pretty tough game. And I've actually posted the video, which is on YouTube, on our page. And if you go there, you will see that around 1 minute, there's a big fight that starts. I think Nico get high tackle, and Brendan Reed fly from nowhere and punch the guy in something that, according to French standard, is totally acceptable. I mean, someone high tackle your teammate. That's fine to put your fist in his face. But Brendan was our coach. So we did lose the game. We did went down to the second division, but we left the first division in style. So so 2008 we had this array of great players, and the team started to pick up. We had two guys who also put their time to coach us, Mike Vesport and also another PhD graduate, Dr. Jérôme Maury, who also really helped to get some structure and get us up the table in the league. Everything culminated in a cup game against Frederiksberg, where we lost 9-8. It was a very tight game. We never really close. We were never anywhere close to actually score. We scored 3 penalties by Eric Thomas. 3 penalties that were not obvious, but he did score them, and we won 9-8, which was a bit of a revenge on all the incidents in the past. It was even more a revenge because actually the ladies from Frederiksberg, who used to be Exiles ladies, emailed us to ask us if they could come back to Exiles after we beat their guys. But at the time, actually, we moved on. It was really, we couldn't care less. I mean, we had a new ladies team. We had new girls who actually joined our club, thanks to Joe and Graham, who did a great job getting everyone together. But Joe will tell you more about that later. But as a male team, we thought, okay, we can't fuck it up a second time. I mean, we need to do something. We can't let our girls go to another club altogether. So we decided to leave our wives, to start dating those girls, and make them the mothers of our children. But not necessarily in this order. So basically we had Graham and Joe, who then left to Australia, unfortunately. We had Dr. Stuart Tyndall and Kat, who then left to Germany. We had Dr. Lou Pilbin and Liv, who lived to Norway. We had Dr. Eric Thomas, who left to Holland with Barbara. So you all know that Eric never did a PhD really. He's not really a doctor. But Barbara is a very young nurse. And I think Eric deserves his title fully, just for that. So we had many other people, Rune, who left with Emily to the UK. So it's interesting because Rune did his PhD in 5 years, which is totally unusual. The great thing for us is that he then stayed around the Exiles longer. But he found Emily, who did her PhD in 2 years, which is totally unseen before. So it makes an average of 3.5, which is, I think, acceptable. Pierre and Rina left to Finland. And finally, Matt Tapsel and Felicity stayed in Denmark. Thank you. The only thing is that Matt was about to retire, so he didn't really... but that's fine. But all I want to say to the current team is that if you want to copy us, in order to keep your ladies team, I would like to encourage the Danish girls to date the good players. Because as a result, we seriously lost half of our first team because of dating foreign girls and leaving Denmark. And for the foreign girls, if you really want to date good players, pick them, you know, when they're about to retire. They usually have more money. It's not a bad deal. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about guys who lost 3 cup finals in a row, but we still managed with our plan, but we didn't expect this to simply kick this way. I'm gonna finish now. So also in terms of the national team, we had few players who made it to the national team. Under 20, we had Benjamin Johansson and Frederick Hennen. In the senior, we had Jérôme Maury, who played for the national team. We also had Lou, who played for the national team. I think Stuart was contacted when he reached the 3 years to play for the national team, but he answered something within the line of, "Fuck you, I'm Scottish." Something else in terms of our contribution to Danish rugby is rugby league. So you all know Nigel Kitching. He was forced to play rugby union when he came to Denmark because there wasn't any rugby league. And then he started for all those years to start some rugby league in Denmark. He finally managed, it was more some sort of, I would say, Exiles. I mean, it all came from the Exiles. It was a few Exiles players who started, then we got more players, and then they made a national team. At some point, there were 3 clubs in Denmark of rugby league, which I think is a great achievement. All those players who were playing rugby league then end up going to Frederiksberg again, which I think is a very, very weird pattern that many people seem to have taken in Danish rugby. But anyway, I think the 2000 have been really productive. It's been great fun. We had a few bad years, but we still made it. It's great to see the club doing so well, and all of you guys playing such great rugby. And also, it is very humbling to see so many people coming from so far to meet us every 5, every 10 years. So I'd like to thank everyone for also looking after me during those 10 years where I played with the Exiles, and have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you.